Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. I think it's a selfie. You're looking straight into the camera. You're on a narrow road. It looks like it's probably BC because it's that British Columbia forest, I guess. The sun is high above, so I'd say it's probably, I don't know, 1 in the afternoon or maybe 11 in the morning. It's warm out because you're not wearing a lot of clothes because it's not exactly cold. So, but I don't know, you're Canadian. It's probably like, it's probably 10 degrees and you're just like, this is great. So why start the conversation with this photo? What's the story behind this photo?
I know where that photo was taken. It was in Whistler on one of the many gorgeous, beautiful trails up there. And it would have been in the morning because I'm an exercise in the morning kind of person. That photo there really represents me in essence. It's me out in my element, in nature. It's how I like to start my day, with sort of freeing my mind of any of the social constructs that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So for me, it was just about feeling the freedom of being out in nature, and I like to capture those moments, especially because I know my face can be very indicative of my feelings. That whole classic saying, I wear my heart on my sleeve, except it's really on my face and in my eyes. So whenever I am feeling really heart-centered and authentic and just in the moment, I like to capture it. And then I use that to do blog posts, and I elaborate a little bit more on perhaps what I was feeling in that moment or particular topics that come up throughout the day.
Okay. Well, because I pay attention to what people say and how they say them, you use phrases that I would associate. So, for example, heart center. That sounds like a very yoga terminology. Do you do yoga?
I actually don't.
Aha! Well done.
Yeah, and I'll preface it by saying that I have done yoga.
Okay.
The last class I was in was probably 5 years ago. Yeah.
So why would you choose that phrase, heart center?
I'm really into the self-development world, not self-help, but self-development. And because of the professions that I've chosen over my entire career path, self-development was essential to be able to grow and to be able to connect with people. And heart-centered is kind of like another way to say authentic. For me, anyway, that's sort of my dual meaning. I like to live my life through my heart as opposed to through my brain, which is not always easy. The brain often takes over, but that's what it is. It's like just heart-centered. When you're feeling really in tune with yourself and connected, your feet are on the ground and you can feel the ground, and it's just, there's nothing radiating except for what truly your true essence, your being.
Right.
So that's what heart-centered is.
Maybe it's because you've been so conscious of that in that, just moment where we kind of crossed paths on the top of Grouse, I just immediately, it telegraphed it to me. It really, you threw it at me and I got it. I was just like, okay. So you use the phrase social construct in the, when you're sort of talking about it. And so how does that figure in? Because in a way, it almost sounds like, okay, before the problems of society and civilization try to box me in, I'm going to go out for a walk in the woods and just be free. So am I projecting? Like, what is that?
Yeah, that's exactly my feeling about it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to portray, for sure. And I find that so many of us, we wake up in the morning, the first thing we do is grab the phone, right? Grab the phone, take a look. What have I missed? What's going on? It's this, fear of missing out syndrome. And the reality is that just by picking up the phone, even if people say, I just want to see if somebody texted me, right? Never mind going on social media. It automatically takes away your ability to dictate your day. Because now whatever you've seen, heard, read, dictates your emotions from that moment going forward.
Huh. Okay.
So I like to leave the phone alone, as I say, and get out into nature. Now, having said that, the phone is the camera. So usually what I do is I shut off all notifications. I turn off the Wi-Fi. I turn off the cellular data so that nothing has come in and can come in. So
Hmm.
that when I do pick up my phone to use it as a camera when I'm out and about capturing a moment, it's purely just that's all it's used for as a camera. But I
Hmm.
think it's really important that people allow themselves to actually think and feel before they're told what to think and feel. And it happens every day. I noticed it grocery shopping the other day. It's like, when did music and advertising start in grocery stores? I really
Right.
miss the days of just walking around and being able to smell an orange, but now it's like I'm being told what to think while I'm walking through the aisles. So we can never escape it.
Yeah, and that soundtrack in a grocery is not accidental. It's very
No.
deliberate. Interesting. You're a bit of an iconoclast, or no, that's not it. An anarchist. Yes, I'm saying that facetiously. I know. I really like it. Okay, so but okay, so you say your career led you to. Look, I mean, our whole lives led us to this moment, and here we are talking. So your career and your experience led you to now, in a way. But when you use that phrase in terms of your work and your development and going out into the world, like, why don't you talk about that? So who are you, Monica?
Well, I'm still figuring that out.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, and that's good and bad, right? It's like I'm still a 53-year-old, teenager.
Okay.
Who am I? I think I am definitely an evolutionary process. Like literally every 3 months, I learn something new about myself, or I've gone through a new experience that has sort of shifted my perspective of my surroundings and of myself as well. I started off my wellness profession as an aerobics instructor when I was in my early 20s and got into personal training. So I'm still a certified trainer, but I don't actually train anybody, but I like to keep up that, sort of certification knowledge base. But I've gone from being in the wellness, like physical arena. I actually, just to backtrack a bit, in my 20s, I got a diploma in environmental science because the
Okay.
nature of the environment, that was really just totally up my tree. But I didn't literally want to have to go to school for 12 years to get a degree, which, then I could actually get a job doing what I wanted to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go into the human aspect of environmental wellness, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
was the physical part at first. And then I got into the nutritional aspect. I got into a few online businesses where I was able to share and promote various nutritional supplements and cleanses and that kind of thing to help people sort of get more in tune with their body and how they maybe would feel better or should feel or want to, or address the health issues. But along with that business, a lot of self-development had to be done in order for me to grow into the person I needed to become to be able to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, there is such a thing as money mindset, and if you have a poor money mindset, then that's all you're going to attract. So you do really need to change your
Okay.
perspective and your belief around money, excuse me, so that you can attract what you're worthy of.
Okay. Okay.
And then I went through, several, relationship breakups, some trauma in there, mental abuse for sure. So that was another level of growth. I also had breast implants for 27 years, and I had them out 4 years ago now, and I got very sick. So that was a whole other level of growth that I was able to then share with women my experience. And with all of that, of course, came a lot of other health issues because of the poisoning from the implants. So,
Mm.
and I would probably have to say the most significant part of who I am, back to your original question, and I do like to talk, so we might forget what the original question is.
A nice light question in the morning, you know?
Yeah, exactly. 4 hours later, that's my answer. Um, so who I am has really evolved from all of these experiences, but the most pivotal thing in my life that really challenged me to think about and grow as to who I am was the removal of the breast implants.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
you've met me, but people who are listening to this and they haven't gone to my blog or Instagram, they won't know that I'm blue-eyed blonde, and I used to be a busty blue-eyed blonde, and now I'm a very small-chested blue-eyed blonde. And for those people, for women, we get it. We know what the difference in that, how society perceives us, how people interact with us, and then most importantly is how I see myself. So
Mm-hmm.
at the age of 49, almost 50, I completely changed my outward appearance, which had a huge impact on how the rest of society looked at me too and
Oh,
treated
really?
me.
Okay. Okay.
It was really interesting, and I wrote a blog on it about going to the gym and how there's sort of a pecking order at the gym, even, how women see each other, and the big, vivacious breasted women, they kind of own the room. And then
Okay.
when you're not one, you're kind of a wallflower. So
Ah, okay.
yeah, it's just, it was a really interesting, I guess, experiment that I was able to be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
to see the difference. So
My thing is, I get a bazillion questions. So I have to pick one. First of all, let's start. Let's rewind. Just burn into people's heads. You have a blog. What's the blog title?
the blog is monikadiane.com.
With a K.
Yeah, Diane.
Okay. Diane.com. Yeah, okay. And it will be in the notes, in the show notes or whatever. Now, okay, so here's a question for you that maybe is taking the conversation in a different direction, but how much of that pecking order is internally generated?
That's a really good question. So I would say probably 50%, because I'm really analytical when it comes to my feelings and emotions and how I view things. And just a side note too, I am a woman's 50s fulfillment coach. So I work with women that are typically around that age and older, helping them to kind of dive through all these different emotions of, what we've gone through in our whole life. So while I was living that, I was really aware of how my feelings were and how I was standing up in that room.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my implants, I was always really aware of the women around me that maybe looked at me in such a way that made me at least think that, they were a little bit maybe insecure, or they felt like, oh, geez, it'd be nice to have a body like that. So I was always very fit. So it just became very aware to me that when I had my implants out, that I didn't get that same look. I didn't get those looks.
Mm.
Obviously from the men, because men are visual, like every human being is, right? So that's an obvious that, I didn't, get the looks when I walked into the room because I didn't have the big attraction, the big boobs, right? But having said that, the women too. So it's a very strange thing. I think women are highly competitive, even more so than men, and it's all based on looks, right? We sort
Mm.
of have our little pecking order. It's like the beautiful women are, sort of elevated, or the really fit women, or the big boobs, and then the other ones just kind of follow suit. But I think that also, too, back to your point, is that it's how, let's say, a flat-chested woman shows up, or a woman with a little bit more weight on her shows up. If you own the room, then you're going to own the room,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But I believe that our society, and kind of going back to our original sort of, when I was saying about all how society affects us when we wake up in the morning, I think that society has made it so that this look and this age, those are the queens and the kings of the world, right?
Right.
So it's
Right.
kind of being implanted into us. But so that's kind of what I actually work with. I work with women that it's like, we need to take back our position in this world, because we're not washed up. We are not,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, we have a lot more to offer because we have experience behind us,
Mm-hmm.
and empathy behind us. And
Sure. Well, as the host of this podcast, it's all about making every second count. I am 1,000% behind you. This is it's great. It's great.
thank you.
I had no idea this was going to be the content of our conversation, and I'm like, okay, sure, let's run with it. I love it. Okay, so it's another selfie. It's an overcast day, I'd say, but you're wearing a nice. What are those hats called? It's not. It's Oh, what are those hats
Oh,
called?
yeah. It's like woven kind of. I don't even know what they're called.
Almost, it's almost like a fedora thing or
Yeah.
whatever. You're looking into the camera, big bright smile. I mean, you've got the big bright smile, 1,000% down. Like you know how to do that just fine. Is it Canada? It could be. Yeah, it looks quite deciduous in the background. It could be BC. Take us into that day. So it's basically a self portrait of you with the hat. So go ahead.
Okay. So that day actually was about a year after I had my implants out, and it was a celebrating women who are 50 and over, and it was a
Hmm.
photo shoot. And so
Oh,
that was what I was
nice.
wearing for one of the photo shoots, and I did a selfie because I was feeling so good. I was feeling in my element, and the hat does have a little bit of significance. So I have never worn a hat in my life. I've never been a hat girl. But I've
Hmm.
always wanted to. I've always
Okay.
wanted to be one of those girls that can just wear a hat, right? So,
Baby, you're 50. You can totally wear a hat.
right,
Come on. Of course you can.
that's what I did. That's what I did. I thought, you know
Yeah.
what? One of my photo shoots is going to be me and a hat. And I put the hat on and I thought, I love how I feel. And again, it was another sort of expressive moment that was like, you can literally change your identity and who you are every minute of the day, right? I think that's
Hmm.
something that people they fail to realize. It's kind of like changing your opinion. You know, one day you can be a vegan, the next day you can be a carnivore, and people say, "Well, we were
Hmm.
just a vegan." It's like, but I changed my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. I changed my mind. People don't realize they can
Sure.
actually change their mind whenever they want based on a new set of information or personal growth, right? So we're so
Hmm.
stuck in these labels, so stuck in labels, right? So I'm really an advocate of change your mind whenever you want, you know, as long as you're not
Nice.
hurting somebody else, but obviously. So that was
Sure. As an infuriating habit to others around me, I like to say that I always reserve the right to contradict myself. You
love
know,
it,
it's like,
love it.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
okay, which is like changing your mind. It's like, well, we want consistency. Well, sorry, I'm not that guy. So you mentioned that you've done coaching. So it's really interesting to me because the work that I've done, which is in something called service leadership, has been about how people feel the most fulfilled and are at their best in a network, in a group of others. So that's very sort of socially constructed, other constructed. And one of the things that I'm hearing from you is you're both really impacted by group perception, right? Of like how you are seen within the group, but you're also a service provider. Like you're also giving service to others. So why don't you talk about how that manifests in your work or coaching or anything you like?
Okay, I have to think about this one. I think how it
That's
was.
good.
Yeah, you made me
Feel
think.
free to contradict yourself. There's no rules.
Exactly. Well, what I would have to, off the top of my head, the first thing I thought was when it comes to the coaching that I do. So again, I'm a 50s fulfillment coach, which is basically just helping women feel fulfilled in their lives again in a variety of areas, right? Um,
Hmm.
I think probably how that shows up in my coaching is that women, especially before they go through the midlife kind of changes, we are a certain person. And after those changes happen, and that includes kids leaving the house, you know, retiring, there's all sorts of different changes that tend to happen in that sort of midlife, not only physically, but a lot of other areas as
Hmm.
well. And for example, let's use the mom situation. So children, you know, when you're a mother, you're a mother. That's who you are. You're a mother. And then your children move across the world and they're not in your home anymore. You're still called a mom, but you don't have any mothering duties anymore.
Hmm.
And so that is kind of our belief of who we are. We're a mother. And within our social group, it's like, oh yeah, she's one of the moms, right?
Okay,
But
right.
now she doesn't have any children to mother anymore, right? Like they're gone, right? They're out of the nest. And so who is she? Who is she?
Hmm.
So Now she has to really dig deep within, get rid of what, society has labeled you as. And that could be, I'm a teacher. I'm a math teacher. Now you're retired. Now what are you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I am a mother. Well, children are gone. You're still a mother, but you're not mothering. So what do you do now? What's your label? Sports, whatever it is, right? Um, I'm a childbearing years, now I'm not. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
now what am I, right? So, and so much of that is caught up in our purpose. It gives us our purpose, our identity. And so I really try and help women to kind of focus back in on themselves and say, okay, like that was just the label that you gave yourself, but really, who are you? Who
Mm.
are you? And let's really dig deep into that and let's discover what are your likes and your dislikes and where are your insecurities and your strengths and how can we bring those all to a healthy place so that now you feel purposeful, driven, happy, and most importantly, loving yourself. Because a lot of women lose themselves. They don't realize that they don't actually love who they are while they're focused on their career or while they're mothering their children to adulthood. And then they pop out the other side and they're like, I don't really like anything about myself right now. I don't like the shape I'm
Mm-hmm.
in. I don't like how I feel. I have no direction now. What do I do? So that's kind of how the two line up. I
Yeah.
don't know if that answered your question properly. That
Uh, I don't really ask questions. What I do is I talk for a while and then I kind of raise my voice. And then the person goes, I think you're asking this, maybe?
there you go.
Don't worry about it. What you're taking me to school and I love it. So I don't know. So as you're explaining stuff, I was sort of thinking to myself about how when Obama was in his last sort of months in office, there was an article about, how he had no more fucks to give. It's like, he had so many, he was worrying about so many things, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, at this stage, he's like, you know what? I have no more fucks to give. And in a way, I identify as a feminist, just the household that I was brought up in and the values that I have. And so I've always been aware of the fact that once women kind of out get beyond the sort of the motherhood, mothering phase or stage, sometimes as they through perimenopause, through menopause, they hit this stage of, you know what, I have no more fucks to give, and in a way that's liberating.
Very.
So if there's a question, I have no idea, but imagine there's a question. How do you chime into that?
Oh gosh, it's so funny because I talk to my girlfriends and we're all, the majority of my girlfriends are around my age, but I also have like one of my very best friends is 26 years old. So she's like a younger version of me, except far more intelligent and directed and I'm learning from her constantly. But what we've all talked about is that exactly is that little age where all of a sudden you're like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what people think about me. I don't give a shit if people don't like what I'm wearing. And you know what? I cannot say what it is. I think that somehow just through the hormone shift is that we just realize on some biological level that life is coming to an end, right? It's like, okay, we're halfway
Mm-hmm.
here. There's a certain part of us that can no longer be, and we have to transition into this new portion. And I don't have the time or the patience to care if you don't like the cellulite on my legs, because that's just the way it is, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but on the same hand, women still struggle within themselves about their own self. So the two are very separate. Women are really good at separating. It's like, I don't give a shit what you think, but I look in the mirror and man, I really care what I think and I hate myself and I don't like this and I don't like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so it's really polar. It's really polar. Um, but back to, I want to just comment on what you said about feminist, that you're a feminist,
No
right?
comments. No comments. I'm just joking. I'm just going. Of course. Of course. Of course.
So because this is a discussion that I've had, and I have a few triggering blogs on my blog, a few posts on my blog that can definitely trigger some people. And that's the whole point, right? I want to get people thinking. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never been a fan of labels. And I think we are a society that is just label driven. I mean, I am this, I am that. It's just like, you know what? We're just human. Like that's probably the only label that we should be giving ourselves. And I also believe that while the feminist movement has taken shape over the hundreds of years, because it didn't just start in the 60s, it started many
Mm-hmm.
decades and centuries before that, right? Well, I think equal rights for both genders, or however many genders there is is paramount, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
paramount. I mean, everybody should have equal human rights. It's human rights.
Yep.
But I do believe that the feminist movement took away a lot for women as well.
Okay.
Because I am a little bit traditional in my thinking that I believe that, men cannot do everything women can do, and women cannot do everything men can do, right? And I think biologically we are set up to have or to thrive within certain roles. Now, once again, in our modern society, two people have to work to, live in a city like Vancouver, Canada. And
Mm-hmm.
so that changes the environment within the home. Now the men are doing the laundry and the women are, changing the car tires and all this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that that was a really good move on society's part.
Okay.
Again, I believe in equal rights. Women should, men shouldn't be above and below, and women and all of that. But I think some of our femininity and some of our caring and nurturing has been lost because we've been forced into a more masculine role. And I think
Mm.
men are also confused because now when they want to show up as who they really are, like a man, it's like you're a protector, you're a provider, you're going to fight off the
Mm-hmm.
lions of the cave. Some women are very pro feminism and they get offended if you open a door, or offended if you say, "Can I carry your bag?" or "I want to pay for your dinner." I mean, and to me, I think that has caused damage within the social relationships between men and women and within the home too. So feminism was great, but parts of it not so much.
Well, just to go back to what you're saying, and I understand this is very thin ice. And look, I haven't been in Canada for 2 decades, so I miss a whole bunch of the social turmoil that's happened. So coming back and looking at it, I'm kind of confused. I'm like, okay, that's kind of strange. Okay, yeah. I mean, I just ultimately, I think what you had said about, well, it's we put so many labels on things and everything, and in a way that is a very human thing, right? Like how, like right now we can only talk to each other because we've labeled things, and so what we're doing is we're exchanging labels and hopefully getting to some kind of shared understanding that's up in the air somewhere, where I understand what you mean, you understand what I think, and we can just get along and be friends.
Yeah, yay! That'd be great.
Should we move on to the next photo?
Yeah, you got it. Absolutely.
So, is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So, if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.